Complete History of David Haller, Earth 616, Part 2. During Bastion's attacks on the X-Men, Cyclops asked Professor X to recruit Legion for the battle. Professor X reluctantly agreed, and Legion was able to use his various powers to fight Nimrod Sentinels alongside the other X-Men. Not long afterwards, Dr. Nemesis began killing off Legion's sub-personalities, seemingly without any negative effects. However, unknown to Nemesis, Legion's mind created a powerful new persona to protect David's mind. This new personality used its reality warping powers to create a new universe where David was a beloved hero. When the reality fell apart, Legion had to reabsorb his new persona and return reality to its proper form. Despite restoring reality once again, several of David's personas escaped in corporeal bodies. With a small team of X-Men, Legion began to hunt down and reabsorb all of these rogue persona, but while capturing the last one, he accidentally absorbed Rogue. Upon releasing her, he suffered a massive shock to his nervous system. David recovered from his catatonic state at some point and was seen on the shores of Ibiza, Spain, together with his father. He suffered intense pain, just as many other psychics did, as the Phoenix arrived to choose its host. After waking up, Professor Xavier sent Legion away to a commune for spiritualists in the Himalayas. Studying under a guru, Mirza the Mystic, David gained a far greater level of control over his powers and split personalities. At one point, David expressed the suspicion and anger he felt towards his father for abandoning him, but was told by Mirza that Professor X doesn't fail the people he loves. And while David thought about that, one of his sub-persona managed to take control for a short time before being subdued by Mirza. Later, David expressed his need for a goal to focus on, and Mirza showed him the protester who opposed the members of the commune. With the help of Mirza, David used his powers to give the protester two choices: either peacefully accept them as equals or continue hating and fearing them, which would result in conflict. David was surprised to see that the protester chose to bow down and worship him, although the mutant sent him home. Afterwards, David was asked by Mirza what he would do if the protester took the second choice, but before he answered, the young mutant was hit by a mental shock wave from his father's death and lost control of his powers, accidentally destroying the commune. All his evil imprisoned personalities were freed and a new personality emerged, killing another personality so it would have less competition. One by one, the evil personalities took control of David's body and started to wreak havoc wherever they went. David took the chance to hide, restoring control over his body. During a peaceful moment, David was attacked by the People's Liberation Equality Ops and discovered from an unseen entity that he was in China. The entity used the remains of a dead goat to build itself a body to help David with. One of the splinter personalities, calling itself Tyrannix the Abominoid, got inside David's mind. The stranger insulted David's father and killed some of the People Liberation Equality Ops, angering David. David used his passion to defeat Tyrannix, drained him of his power and used it to knock out the PLE. Reading the stranger's mind, he discovered it full of hate for him, his father and mutants in general. He also learned of imprisoned mutant twins and decided to help them. After returning Tyrannix to his cell, David tells him that the gift of telepathy, which that splinter personality controlled, is his, and from now on, he will take it from him whenever he chooses. 4 days later, David arrived in Japan to seek out the twins. Following a faint psychic trace, he is led to a trap, an astral projection in the form of a giant raven that knocks him out. Once awake, David find out that the twins, Karasu and Sohobo Tengu are not captives but the heirs of one of Logan's enemies, Ogun, a Yakuza leader that was told Legion would come to destroy their clan. David watched as the twins were forced to rip out the soul of someone who insulted their father. Then the twins were given orders find who sent David and then kill him. While the twins do their work, David used his powers to protect himself from their telepathic probe and asked them if they like what they do. The twins admitted that they found it revolting. David and the twins talked about loyalty and respect for their elders, and the young mutant explained how he was seeking to uphold his father's legacy and dream. Meanwhile, in his mind, David tried to find a persona to defeat his captors. David tried to convince the twins that they are too young for the life of crime and violence, and regardless of the debt they owed their adopted father, this was not a life fit for children. The twins asked what alternative his father would offer. This reminded David of the danger room and the fact his father used to put children in it. David was confused at the start, but then he told them that just because their father had done two things right, doesn't mean he was infallible, doesn't mean they have to do things the same way, and it's all right to try and be different and better. His conversation with the twins strengthened his appreciation for Xavier, his dream, and David's part in it. Now more confident and mentally stronger, David overcame one of the 4 personas he failed to drain earlier and used its power to free himself. He thanked the twins and explains that they should have childhood and a choice, that genes do not decide their way of life and nobody should be forced to fight if they do not want to. David asked the twins to accompany him in his journey and they accepted. However, when the X-Men arrive soon after, they believed that David was going to hurt the children and ask Legion to turn the twins over to them. David was not happy with being called by his code name, and believed that the X-Men put the mutant twins in danger, a matter that he felt was proven by the fact that they teach children how to fight. His disagreement over their methods led David to plot against the X-Men. Beginning by putting Wolverine's mind on standby, David fought the X-Men with the help of the twins, almost defeating them until Blindfold stepped in. The girl introduced herself to David as his nemesis and used her telepathy to cut him off from his powers. A new persona angrily attacked Ruth, telling her to get out. David and the twins then hid in an ammo hut, but Chamber pursued and destroyed the structure. Empowered by the belief that the twins needed him, David defeated another sub-persona and used its power to protect them, but apparently perished while doing so. He was, in fact, alive and watched as the X-Men gathered the twins. David also noticed the pair of eyes that belonged to one of the twins. For a week, David tried to contact his mother but was uncertain what to say to her. Later he used his powers to locate and teleport dire wraiths to the front door of the Jean Grey School so he could infiltrate the building and find Blindfold to learn what attacked her in his mind. David also discovered her origin, and upon reaching her, he was pulled away Karasu, who revealed that her brother was acting strange. After reading a message she gives him, David comes to realize that the eyeball guy was in fact Blindfold's murderous brother, Luca. Worse, he killed Sohobo and possessed his corpse to infiltrate the school so that he could murder his sister. With newfound determination, David teleported away to save Ruth. He chased Luca throughout the school, but the murderer was prepared for him. Karasu, not knowing that her brother was really dead, thought that David was trying to hurt him and attempted to aid Luca. David was angered when Luca considered killing Karasu. A new persona taunted him over his anger, claiming that his father would be ashamed of him, which caused David to lose his confidence and allowed the persona to briefly take control. David awoke to find the X-Men in front of him about to attack, but Blindfold attacked Luca first, forcing him to flee. Wolverine offered Legion a place to stay so they could help him, but David still disagreed over the X-Men's policy towards training children and turned Logan down. While leaving, David encountered Karasu, who expressed her hatred for him over what happened to her brother. When David reached the gate, he saw Ruth waiting for him and asked her what made her wake up, to which she answered that he called and warned her not to go deep in the darkness. While wondering what is it that he should be careful from, the new persona told him that the grand evil that Luca foresaw, the one that will wipe out mutant kind, was none other than David himself, and Blindfold was destined to kill him to stop it. David asked him how he came to know all of this, and Fiend answered that he knows everything, revealing himself to be in the form of Charles Xavier and calls David my son, which horrified David greatly. David lives up to his word to make the world a better place by locating and framing the group that corrupted Luca by bringing the dire wraiths to Earth to be arrested by SWORD, all while getting closer to forming a romantic relationship with Blindfold. Later he helped a new mutant whose power is to take credit for other people's work. While on a date with Ruth, David took her to the moon and told her about the new persona inside his mind and that all the other personalities are terrified of it. He also told her when it helped him, he saw a glimpse of the future, and from that vision, he knows that Arcus, after reading a book, will start killing all mutants, and they can stop him before he does that, by making sure that he doesn't wake up. Ruth disagreed, saying that they can't do this to someone who didn't do anything yet. David tells her that he will not become reactive like his father and reveals to her that he already made sure Arcus won't wake up 5 hours ago. She tells him that she knows that he needed her approval to gain enough strength and self-belief to drain a persona in order to gain the power he needed. Ruth was disappointed and asked David to send her home. David tried to justify what he did, but Blindfold asked again to be returned home. David sent her and Arcus back and told her to tell the X-Men to do what they can do to help him, and told Ruth that he thought he loved her. After that, David started to read the book Luca wrote about the vision he saw about the future. To avoid killing Blindfold and cause many other deaths, David wiped himself out of existence, but in fact remained within Ruth Aldine's mind. But apparently people still remembered him. Recently, he came back to life. After his resurrection, a personality of David's by the name Lord Trauma tried to take over his mind while David was taken into hospital after being found by an Amish couple. David manages to temporarily defeat Lord Trauma and heads to see Dr. Hannah Jones, a psychotherapist known for mainly working with celebrities. As David is heading in her direction, Lord Trauma seeks her out and warns her not to treat David and trying to scare her through visual hallucinations. David pulls her out of one of the hallucinations and introduces himself, asking for her help. Hannah accepts David's ask for help, and quickly is transported into his mind. Hannah is attacked by creatures sent by Lord Trauma and meets with Tammy Har, another of David's personalities. She leads Hannah away from the creatures and to the ancient cities, structures containing past memories. Hannah witnesses a memory where David caused a psychiatric doctor to commit suicide after his temper snapped. Trying to help young David, Hannah and Tammy are flung out of the memory by the young David and down to Nightmare Beach. The pair move past the bittersweet spores after Hannah unwittingly touches one and falls sick. Back at the hospital, Lord Trauma keeps speaking to David and causes him to unknowingly shout at a patient, causing him to be taken away by security. This episode of paranoia causes his mindscape to become overwhelmed with voices in the form of extreme wind.